The red recording light flickered and died just as Rosé's voice cracked. "Don't stop," Bruno whispered, already moving toward her, because the room had learned how to hold its breath. The studio at 3 in the morning smelled of warm cables and stale coffee, a familiar sanctuary turned confessional. Rosé stood barefoot on the wooden floor, headphones sliding crooked as tears blurred the lyric sheet in her trembling hands. The song had started as a demo, a harmless melody meant to pass the night. It had turned into a mirror. Each note peeled something raw from her chest, each word landing too close to a truth she had buried under rehearsals and smiles. Bruno didn't ask permission. He closed the distance and wrapped his arms around her as if the song had called him by name. His embrace was steady, practiced, the kind that knew how to keep someone from falling apart without making promises. Rosé's shoulders shook against him, her breath hitching in uneven waves. She pressed her face into his jacket, and the fabric smelled like rain and citrus, like nights on tour when the world felt too loud and he was the only quiet. Behind them, near the door, Jennie's fingers hovered over the switch. She had been there the whole time, silent, watching through the glass as the take unraveled into something intimate and dangerous. She knew the rhythm of this room, the way Bruno leaned when he listened, the way Rosé closed her eyes when the note mattered more than the word. Jennie had loved him quietly, carefully, the way you love someone you can't afford to lose. She had learned how to laugh on cue, how to be the bridge, how to translate tension into teamwork. Tonight, the bridge cracked. Rosé pulled back just enough to breathe. "I didn't mean to," her voice failed her again. The lyric sheet slid to the floor, a soft betrayal. Bruno rested his forehead against hers, his eyes closed, his jaw tight as if holding a decision in place. He had written songs about longing, about doors you never open, about the courage it takes to stay. This one had written him. "It's okay," he said, but the words sounded like a promise he didn't know how to keep. Jennie watched the way his thumb brushed Rosé's sleeve, the unconscious tenderness of it. She felt the heat of something irreversible bloom in her chest, not anger but grief, clean, sharp, honest. She had always been good at noticing details. It was how she survived. It was how she knew this moment would live longer than the song. She flicked the switch. The overhead lights dimmed, leaving only the city's glow bleeding through the window, neon trembling like a pulse. The darkness gave her cover. It gave her dignity. Jennie slipped out without a sound, choosing the hallway where the air was cooler and the truth less bright. Inside, the silence grew heavy. Bruno loosened his hold, careful, as if releasing something fragile. Rosé wiped her cheeks with the heel of her hand, embarrassed by the mess of herself. "I can't sing that again," she said. "Not like this." "You don't have to," he replied. He picked up the lyric sheet, smoothing it on the console. The words stared back at him, unmistakable. He had tried to write around her, to make the song about the idea of someone, but music had a way of telling on you. They sat on the floor, backs against the wall, the city humming beyond the glass. Rosé's breath slowed. She stared at her hands, at the faint calluses earned from strings and hours. "I'm scared," she admitted. "If I say it out loud, everything changes." Bruno nodded. Fear was a language he understood. He had chased stages and shadows, learned how applause could drown out doubt until it didn't. "Sometimes everything needs to change," he said softly. "Sometimes that's the only way to keep what matters." She looked at him then, really looked, and the room tilted. There was relief there and resolve and something tender that had always been present, waiting for a night reckless enough to name it. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. The truth sat between them, breathing. In the hallway, Jennie leaned against the cool concrete and let the quiet wash over her. She pressed her palm to her sternum and counted until the ache found a shape she could carry. She thought of the first time she met Bruno, the way his laugh filled spaces, the way his focus sharpened when the music demanded it. She thought of Rosé, of loyalty and late-night ramen, of harmonies that felt like home. Loving them both had been easy. Choosing herself would be harder. She walked out into the night. The street was slick with rain, reflecting signs like scattered constellations. Her phone buzzed with a message she didn't open. She needed the darkness to do its work, to teach her how to let go without bitterness. Somewhere behind her, a song waited to be finished. Morning came quietly. In the studio, Rosé returned to the mic alone. She sang the song again, changed just enough to tell the truth without tearing it open. Bruno listened from the booth, hands folded, eyes steady. When she finished, the silence felt earned. Jennie sent a message then, simple and kind, the way she always was. She wished them courage. She wished herself peace. The song went on to become a heartbeat for people who didn't know its origin, a melody that held grief and hope in equal measure. And at 3 a.m, when the city forgot itself, each of them learned the cost of honesty and the grace of choosing light, even if it meant walking through the dark to find it. The door slammed harder than Jennie intended, the echo ricocheting down the hallway like a verdict, and Bruno flinched as if the sound had struck him in the spine. "Did you hear that?" Rosé asked, her voice still raw, still shaking from the song that had peeled her open. Bruno didn't answer right away. He stared at the darkened doorway, the place where Jennie had vanished, and for the first time that night, fear edged past tenderness. "She was here," he said finally, not as a question. Rosé's breath caught. "How long?" "Long enough." Silence swallowed them again, heavier now, contaminated with guilt. Rosé stood up abruptly, packing the small studio like a trapped thought. Her bare feet slapped softly against the floor. "I never wanted this to hurt her," she said, anger bleeding into the words because sadness alone was too fragile to hold. "She's my family." Bruno rose too, tension snapping tight between his shoulders. "I didn't plan this either," he said, louder than he meant to. "But you can't pretend that song didn't come from somewhere." "So what are you saying?" Rosé shot back, eyes burning. "That we let music decide our lives now?" "I'm saying it already has." The words landed between them, dangerous and undeniable. Rosé laughed once, sharp and broken. "Do you know how many times I swallowed this?" she said. "Every time she talked about you like you were untouchable. Every time I told myself I was imagining the way you looked at me." Bruno stepped closer. "I tried to stop it." "But you didn't." "No," he admitted, voice low. "Because every time you sang, it felt like the truth was asking me to listen." Rosé stopped packing. For a moment she just stared at him, chest rising and falling too fast. "You love me," she said, not a question, not a confession, but a challenge. Bruno didn't hesitate. "Yes." The word cracked the room open wider than the song ever had. Rosé's knees nearly gave out, and she had to grip the edge of the console to steady herself. Tears welled again, not from pain this time, but from the terrifying relief of being seen. Behind the closed studio door, Jennie leaned against the wall, her back sliding down until she sat on the cold floor. She hadn't gone far. She couldn't. Her phone buzzed incessantly in her hand, messages from staff, from friends, from a world that still thought everything was fine. She ignored them all. She pressed her fist against her mouth to stop the sound rising in her throat. Inside, anger finally surfaced, not at Rosé, not even truly at Bruno, but at herself for believing patience could turn into destiny. "You should have said something," she whispered to the empty hallway. "Either of you." The memory of Rosé's trembling voice stabbed her again. Jennie wiped her cheeks violently and stood, decision hardening where heartbreak had been. She wasn't going to disappear quietly. Not this time. When she pushed the studio door open again, the tension inside snapped like a wire pulled too tight. Both Bruno and Rosé turned at once. Jennie smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "So," she said lightly, her voice a blade wrapped in silk, "this is what happens when I leave for 5 minutes." Rosé's mouth opened, then closed. Bruno took a step forward. "Jennie." "No," Jennie cut in, holding up a hand. "Don't start with my name like it's an apology." The air felt electric, dangerous. Jennie walked in slowly, each step deliberate, eyes never leaving Bruno's face. "Do you know how stupid I feel?" she said softly. "Standing outside, listening to the man I love say yes to someone else." Rosé flinched. "Jennie, You don't get to explain," Jennie snapped, finally letting the crack show. "Because I already know, I always knew, I just didn't want it to be true." Bruno swallowed. "I never meant to lead you on." Jennie laughed bitterly. "You didn't have to, I did it myself." She turned to Rosé then, and the pain there was sharper, deeper. "All those nights," Jennie said, voice shaking now. "All those times I held you while you cried about things you couldn't name. Was this it? Was it always him?" Rosé stepped forward despite herself. "I tried to bury it," she said, tears spilling freely now. "Because I loved you more than my fear, I still do." "But not the same way," Jennie replied. "And that's the part that kills." The room pulsed with unsaid words, with years of shared stages and whispered dreams now unraveling. Jennie drew a slow breath, forcing her hands to stop shaking. "I won't beg," she said quietly. "And I won't compete. If you choose her, Bruno, say it to my face." Bruno looked at Rosé, then back at Jennie. His voice broke when he spoke. "I choose honesty," he said. "And the truth is, my heart never learned how to love you the way you deserve." Jennie closed her eyes. The words landed exactly where she expected, and still they hurt more than she imagined. When she opened them again, something had shifted. Hurt, yes, but also clarity. "Then don't ask me to stay," she said. "Don't ask me to pretend this didn't shatter something inside me." She turned toward the door once more. This time, Rosé didn't chase her. Bruno didn't stop her. They watched as Jennie walked away with her head high, tears streaking her face but dignity intact. The door closed softly behind her. Not a slam this time, but a final, aching click. Rosé sank into a chair, covering her face with her hands. "We broke her," she whispered. Bruno knelt in front of her, eyes dark with remorse. "We didn't mean to," he said, "but meaning doesn't change the damage." Outside, the city was waking up. Inside the studio, nothing felt the same. Love had been named, friendship fractured, and the night that began with a song had become a reckoning neither of them could escape. The elevator doors slid shut just as Jennie's knees finally gave in, and she let the sob rip out of her chest, raw and unfiltered, her reflection in the mirrored wall looking like a stranger she didn't recognize anymore. Inside the studio, Rosé stared at the door long after Jennie was gone, her ears ringing with words that refused to fade. Bruno paced like a caged thought, running a hand through his hair, stopping, starting again, the weight of what had just happened settling into his bones. "This isn't how it was supposed to come out," Rosé said hoarsely. Bruno turned sharply. There was never going to be a clean way. She stood, eyes red, voice shaking but dangerous now. "So what happens next, Bruno? We just keep going like nothing exploded." "I don't know," he snapped, then immediately softened. "I just know I can't lie anymore." Rosé laughed bitterly. "You think honesty is enough to fix this?" Before he could answer, the studio door burst open again. Jennie stood there, breathless, eyes blazing, her phone clenched in her hand like a weapon. "No," she said, voice sharp as glass. "We're not done." Rosé froze. "Jennie." "You don't get to say my name like that," Jennie cut in, stepping closer. "Not after everything you just said behind my back." Bruno frowned. "What are you talking about?" Jennie held up her phone, the screen glowing with a paused audio file. "I forgot my charger," she said coldly, "and I heard enough to ruin sleep for the rest of my life." Rosé's face drained of color. "You recorded us." "No," Jennie replied. "The walls did. This studio syncs automatically to the cloud. Your honest moment just backed itself up." The room went dead silent. Bruno's voice dropped. "Delete it." "I will," Jennie said, "but not before I ask one thing." She stepped right up to Rosé, their faces inches apart. "Was there ever a single moment," she whispered, "when you chose me over him?" Rosé's lips trembled. She searched Jennie's face, the friend who knew her tells, her fears, her silences. Lying now would be the final betrayal. "No," Rosé said, barely audible, "but I tried to." Jennie's laugh broke into a sob. "That's worse," she said. "That means you knew." She turned to Bruno, tears spilling freely now, rage bleeding through heartbreak. "And you," she said, shoving his chest. "You let me fall for you knowing I'd hit the ground alone." Bruno didn't move. "I cared about you," he said, "but love isn't something I can force." Jennie wiped her face violently. "Then here's the truth you're so obsessed with," she said. If this gets out, it doesn't just destroy me, it destroys all of us. Rosé's breath hitched. Are you threatening us? Jennie shook her head slowly. I'm warning you. She deleted the file in front of them, thumb hovering for one brutal second before confirming. The screen went dark. I won't expose you, Jennie said, but I won't protect you either. Bruno stepped forward. Jennie, please. Don't, she snapped. I gave you my silence for too long already. She turned toward Rosé one last time, voice breaking completely now. I hope he holds you when the world turns on you, she said, because I won't be there anymore. The door shut again, this time echoing like a final chord. Rosé collapsed against the wall, sliding down until she was sitting on the floor, shaking. She hates me. No, Bruno said quietly. She's grieving. Rosé looked up at him, eyes wild. This is bigger than us now. He nodded. It always was. Days later, the song leaked. No names, no faces, just a raw demo uploaded anonymously at 3:07 a.m. The internet devoured it. Fans dissected every lyric, every crack in Rosé's voice, every breath Bruno forgot to hide. Speculation exploded. Headlines screamed betrayal, forbidden love, broken bonds. Jennie watched it all from her apartment, curtains drawn, phone vibrating nonstop. She hadn't shared the file, but someone else had. The betrayal cut deeper than before. She typed a message. She erased a dozen times before sending one final line. I'm done being quiet. At the same moment, Rosé stood backstage at a surprise showcase, heart pounding, lights blinding. Bruno reached for her hand, but she hesitated. Once we step out there, she whispered, there's no going back. Bruno met her gaze. Then let's stop running. As they walked toward the stage, unaware of the storm waiting outside, Jennie picked up her coat, her expression unreadable, a decision hardening in her chest that would change everything. The night had started with a song. It was about to end in fire. The stage lights burned hotter than Rosé expected, and for a split second, she forgot how to breathe, the roar of the crowd crashing into her chest like a wave she hadn't prepared for. Backstage had been chaos. Managers whispering urgently, phones buzzing nonstop, assistants pretending not to read the headlines scrolling across their screens. The leaked demo had detonated overnight, and no one was pretending anymore. This wasn't just a song. It was a confession the world had decided to claim. Bruno leaned close as they stood just beyond the curtain. You okay? He asked, voice low, steady, the calm before a storm. Rosé swallowed hard. Ask me again when this is over. He reached for her hand again. This time, she didn't pull away. Out in the audience, phones were already raised, recording before a single note was played. Whispers spread like static. Names trended. The past refused to stay buried. Somewhere across the city, Jennie stood in the shadows of an empty rehearsal hall, the leaked song echoing faintly from a speaker someone had forgotten to turn off. She stared at her reflection in the mirrored wall, eyes rimmed red but sharp with resolve. They wanted drama, she murmured to herself, so I'll give them truth. Her phone buzzed. A producer's name lit up the screen. Are the rumors true? Did Bruno write it for Rosé? Jennie didn't answer right away. She walked to the mirror, placed her palm against the cold glass, and finally typed back. Meet me, tonight. On stage, the music started, soft, haunting, unmistakable. Rosé's voice trembled on the first line, and the audience went still, sensing something fragile unfolding in real time. Bruno watched her from the piano, every note an apology, every chord a choice he could no longer undo. Midway through the song, Rosé's eyes found his. Her voice cracked, not the rehearsed kind, but the kind that slips out when the heart takes over. I can't do this, she whispered into the mic. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Bruno stood abruptly. Rosé. No, she said, shaking her head, tears spilling freely now. They deserve the truth. The silence was deafening. This song, she continued, voice breaking but strong, was never meant to hurt anyone, but it did, and I won't hide behind music anymore. Cameras zoomed in. The moment turned electric, dangerous. Bruno stepped beside her. "Then I'll say it," he said into the mic, heart pounding so loud he barely heard himself. "I wrote it because I fell in love with her." The crowd erupted. Back in the rehearsal hall, Jennie's phone exploded with notifications. She stared at the live clips streaming across her screen, Bruno's words replaying over and over like a wound refusing to close. "So that's how you chose," she whispered. An hour later, in a quiet studio across town, Jennie sat across from the producer, hands folded, posture composed despite the storm inside her. "I won't lie," she said calmly, "but I won't exaggerate either." The producer leaned forward. "People think you were betrayed." Jennie met his gaze. "People love simple stories, this one is." She stood, slipping on her coat. "Tell them I loved him, tell them I lost, and tell them I walked away before it turned me into someone I'm not." As she left, her phone buzzed again, this time from Rosé. "I never wanted to hurt you." Jennie stared at the message for a long time before replying. "I know, that's what hurts the most." Back at the venue, the show ended early. Rosé sat alone in her dressing room, makeup streaked, hands shaking. Bruno knocked once, then entered quietly. "She spoke to the press," he said. "She didn't destroy us." Rosé let out a broken laugh. "She's stronger than both of us." Bruno knelt in front of her. "And you?" Rosé wiped her cheeks, eyes burning with a new kind of fire. "I'm done being silent." Outside, the world buzzed louder than ever. Love had been declared, friendships fractured, and truths set loose without permission. And somewhere between the headlines and the heartbreak, all three of them understood the same terrifying thing. This was no longer just a song. It was a war of hearts, and none of them would walk away unchanged. The interview room smelled faintly of coffee and cold air when Jennie sat down, the red light of the camera blinking on like an unblinking eye. And for the first time since everything shattered, she didn't feel afraid. "Are you ready?" the interviewer asked gently. Jennie looked straight into the lens. "No," she said, "but I'm done hiding." Across the city, Rosé watched the live broadcast from her dressing room, her phone shaking in her hand. Bruno stood near the window, arms crossed, jaw tight. "She's really doing this," Rosé whispered. Bruno exhaled slowly. "She deserves to speak." On the screen, Jennie's voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed the storm beneath. "People think this is about betrayal," she said, "but it's about silence, about what happens when three hearts are too close and no one is brave enough to name the truth in time." The interviewer hesitated. "Did Bruno ever love you?" Jennie didn't answer immediately. She swallowed, her fingers curling into her palm. "He cared," she said carefully. "And sometimes that's more dangerous than love because it lets hope grow where it shouldn't." The clip went viral within seconds. Rosé's chest tightened. "She's hurting because of us." Bruno turned to her sharply. "No," he said. "She's hurting because we all waited too long." Rosé stood abruptly. "Then I'm not waiting anymore." Before Bruno could stop her, she grabbed her coat and walked out, the sound of her heels echoing with purpose. The studio was buzzing when Rosé arrived, staff scrambling as her presence sent shockwaves through the building. Jennie was just finishing the interview when Rosé pushed open the door. Gasps rippled through the room. "Cut!" someone shouted, but it was too late. Rosé stepped forward, eyes glossy but fierce. "If you're telling the truth," she said, voice trembling yet unwavering, "then let me tell mine." Jennie froze. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the air thick with years of friendship and unspoken pain. "You weren't supposed to see this," Jennie said quietly. "I needed to," Rosé replied, "because I owe you more than silence." The cameras were still rolling. "I fell in love," Rosé said, her voice cracking, "and I hated myself for it. Every night I told myself I was betraying you just by breathing near him." Jennie's eyes filled despite herself. "Then why didn't you stop?" "Because love doesn't ask permission," Rosé cried, "and because I was afraid losing you would break me." Jennie laughed through tears. "It did anyway." The room stood frozen as raw truth spilled without restraint. "I loved him," Jennie said suddenly, voice sharp with pain. "And watching you two pretend not to see each other nearly destroyed me." Rosé stepped closer. "I would give anything to take that pain from you." Jennie shook her head. "That's the cruel part, you can't." Somewhere outside, Bruno watched the footage explode across every screen, his phone lighting up with messages he couldn't bring himself to read. When he finally entered the studio, both women turned toward him. "This ends now," Jennie said, standing. "No more hiding behind music or interviews." Bruno's voice broke. "Then let me say it to you, not the world. I never loved you the way you deserved, and I'm sorry for every moment I let you believe I might." Jennie closed her eyes. When she opened them, something inside her had hardened into resolve. "Then this is goodbye," she said. "Not because I hate you, but because I need to love myself more." She walked past Rosé, pausing only long enough to whisper, "Take care of him. He breaks easily even if he doesn't show it." The door shut softly behind her. Rosé turned to Bruno, tears streaming freely now. "We won," she said bitterly. "Why does it feel like we lost everything?" Bruno pulled her into his arms, holding her as she shook. "Because some loves aren't meant to survive the truth." Outside, Jennie stepped into the night, the city lights blurring as tears finally fell without witnesses. Her phone buzzed with offers, interviews, sympathy, outrage. She ignored them all. For the first time, she wasn't walking away in silence. She was walking forward alone, wounded but unbroken, while behind her the world argued over a love story that had already cost too much. And somewhere deep inside all three of them, the same realization burned quietly. The loudest moments hadn't been sung on stage. They had been spoken when it hurt the most,